All right. I think it only takes a few seconds. Are we good? We're good. All right. We're live. Welcome back to the stream. Luke, so good to have you back in studio again. How you doing?
Thanks, bud. I'm doing good, man. Yourself?
Pretty good. Pretty good. We're going to talk about one of my favorite topics. Well, I don't my favorite topics anyways, money. We're going to talk about money and then finances. Now, we've had some pretty interesting discussions about your financial situation and how you've made money, because you say you have your portfolios up to about $2 million. So you're all up in about investing.
Yes.
And I'm all about building businesses, and I love that aspect of building wealth. So I figured today what we can do is we can kind of dive a little bit deeper into that and just kind of contrast the differences of how you and I go about building wealth, and to let people know that there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to becoming rich or successful or whatever the case may be. So I just figured that would be a good place to start. What do you think about that?
I mean, with discussions about money and wealth, it can be so complex, it can be triggering. It's I think it's the number one topic that can be so consuming in people's minds, whether they like it or not, because this whole
what's make the world go round, right? You need money,
and it's tough to say that because everybody wants to fight that cliche that money buys happiness, right? Everybody's no, you don't need, but and unfortunately it does.
It does, absolutely.
It's like, well, what is happiness? Well, what happiness is living a stressless life, living a comfortable life, being able to enjoy the experiences in life, and it all costs money,
right?
Do
what you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want.
I mean, that's the dream. That's the dream for me, right? And the thing about it, it just comes down to the things to do to build wealth. And I think we can start off by maybe defining what wealth is.
Yeah, okay, that's so
good. Subjective,
right?
What
does that mean? Right.
Like it's very subjective. And I think that the definition for people is different. I think the definition also evolves over time.
Okay.
That's the way when I was younger, I obviously went through the materialistic phase. I've owned boats and cars, Sea-Doos, all kinds of toys.
What's the fanciest car you've ever had?
Oh God, I've probably had a fancy,
something that would make people be like,
I had a 2015 Audi convertible.
Oh, okay.
At one point in time, it might have been the fanciest car I've owned, and that was just recently, and it was honestly a nightmare on wheels.
Oh, really? In terms of maintenance and all that stuff?
The thing was a lemon.
Really?
Yeah, I went and bought it, and I even drove out to Toronto. I didn't drive it to. I flew out to Toronto, and I picked it up there, drove it back. I mean, I love driving the thing. I love the convertible, but it came to the point where it started having transmission issues.
Shit, and then, I know what that's like.
Yeah, and then obviously it just started having trickle down effects from there to the point where I was like, get it back, drive it for a month, check engine light on, and then the thing just became like just a nightmare for me to drive because I was just terrified to go into it. I was like, I'm gonna be enjoying it, and then I'd just be paranoid, like, is that check engine light on? And the thing just ended up robbing me of my joy more than anything.
Yeah, it's funny about what you think will make you happy and what looks good on Instagram, the fancy photos with the cars. But when you get down in practicality behind the social media posts and all that, the pain and like you said, the mental anguish of just trying to maintain the car and whatever. Like, people don't see that behind the scenes of chasing that material stuff and what it could actually do to you, which is interesting.
I think the car, the automobile, whatever, is like the ultimate material.
Yeah.
Like, I know a house is very, it's a necessity. You have to live by the house. The house is great, but there's something about the car, because there's something about the car that, I mean, it might not be for everybody. For me, it always was some sort of symbol.
It is. It's a big, especially in North America. Everything's built around driving a car.
It's like there's
people see you driving it.
Yeah, it's the color, the brand.
Yeah,
there's something about it, and I must have owned 30 cars since I was young. Because my whole game with cars was to buy them, with cash, drive them, sell them, rebuy them, try to get in and out of them before they cost me too much money.
Okay.
For the most part, that was a good working strategy. You know what I mean? Kind of get into them for a couple of years, then get out of them. But there's something about the car as a materialistic thing, But at the end of the time, if I would have just bought 5 cars and sat on those cars for 7 years,
just drive them till
you know what I mean? Like, if I would have done that, I would have saved so much money in the automobile space.
All right. So back to the definition of wealth. So how would you define wealth?
Yeah, at this point in my life, it's definitely what you just said. It's having the freedom for me and my wife both to do whatever we want, whenever we want, with whoever we want. It is, and that's the classic definition for us. And with that, that's both of us working for enjoyment. That's not being a slave to our job because we have to make ends meet.
Yeah. For me, I think it could be the same thing, but I'll just define it this way. Tell me what you think about it, because I think it's pretty similar. Like, I would say that you are wealthy when you have enough money so that if you stopped working, you would never have to work again another day for the rest of your life. You would be able to have all your needs met because you would have enough money to be able to sustain you for the rest of your life. That's what I think would be true wealth. Because if you're rich, you can have $10 million in the bank, but if your expenses are $9.5 million or $10.5 million, you're still broke because you're still, you know what I mean? Like, you still have to work to bring in extra money to be able to make ends meet. So like, you could be the richest person in the world, but if you have to stop working and the money stops flowing and you can't enjoy your lifestyle, then you're just rich. You're not wealthy. Do you know what I mean? 100%. So it's not like a number in the bank. It's how it fits into your lifestyle.
Yeah. The term rich is very subjective as well. Yeah. Like, it's like the point that you're trying to make is dead on. It's like, you could, like you said, you could be the person that makes $5,000 a month, which is probably like an average salary.
Yeah, it's a little bit less than that. So what is the average? I think it's something like 48,000 Canadian.
Yeah, like how they come up with those numbers?
That's true.
You know what I mean? But let's just say somebody makes 5,000, but they live well below their means.
Yeah.
And their lifestyle, their bills, their overhead, their fixed budget is $2,500 a month. They have an access of $2,500 a month for them to use for enjoyment.
Yep.
Their needs are met. Yep. That means that they live. They have an automobile where, say, it's a fixed payment. That payment is fixed. It's under a warranty. They have an apartment that all gets paid. They know what their groceries cost. And they don't carry any
for now until it goes up again next month.
Yeah, they don't carry any liabilities.
Yeah.
That's a big thing, right? But like you said, you could be a person that's collecting, $10,000 a month and have the big mortgage, the 2 cars, the kids' daycare, the children's dance, the gymnastics,
still paycheck to paycheck,
all the subscription services. And it's just, and then, a few extra toys on there that has all maintenance, liabilities on top of liabilities. And next thing you know, they're probably upside down. Maybe their output is $12,000 a month and they're actually, they're upside down.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
That's a very common thing.
Yeah.
You see it all the time, right? And I think when people start getting these large salaries and they start, getting these big raises, that they start increasing their lifestyle.
Yeah, so that lifestyle creep.
That lifestyle actually grows quicker than their income. And it's very common, right? And why that happens, it could be for many reasons. But, for me personally, it's where I'm at in my life. I've been through that materialistic phase. I've owned things. They owned me, right?
It's the old Fight Club quote, eh?
Yeah.
What is it? What is that quote? Andrew, you know that quote, right? That Fight Club quote? Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Well,
No, it's Fight Club. It's Brad Pitt. Yeah. Because that was the whole thing. It was a whole material consumer thing. That was like the masculine movie of the 90s.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. I watched that not too long ago and it still hits.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's more 100%. Relevant now than it ever was because the way our society is gone.
Right.
But honestly, for me, being through, like I said, I just sold my house after 16 years. And that thing was a joy robber. It was just an endless money pit of problems, repairs.
Yeah.
And
was it a newer house, by the way?
No, it was an old. It was an older house.
Okay.
Yeah, and but like it was just something. It was. I mean, I reconstructed it to, for my customization for what I wanted. But with older houses, it's after 16 years, I've seen it all, and it came to the point where I just I couldn't enjoy spending money because I never knew when that thing was going to come and haunt me for another bill. And the bill could be, and I mean, the scary thing with the houses is, there's nothing, it wouldn't be, that far-fetched to have a $10,000 problem just come out of the
Oh
blue.
yeah,
Like
like a pipe burst or something, and then soaks the floor. You got
a structural issue.
Yeah.
You know, and you crack in the foundation. Like, you know, one little crack, you're tearing your whole house apart. You know what I mean? And you get that person come to your house and they look at it and you're just nervous.
Yeah, because they'll find they find like 5 other things that you had no idea.
The stress, the stress of like finding or looking at an issue and then your mind just racing.
Like what else? What
could it be? And you're just like, could this be? You know, and you're actually going through it in your mind like, okay, I can handle 2,000. I could handle a 2,000 problem, but you know, what if it's a $10,000? And you're just living with that.
Yeah, no
but
kidding.
With the house, it was just nonstop.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And ever since I sold it about 2 years ago, like it's just starting to like pay dividends now. The ease I have in my life of not having to deal with that.
You can't even really put a price tag on that. Like Andrew, you know this. We've never owned a house. We've tried it every once in a while where we kind of came close. But it's always been in my mind of like, I love renting because it's a fixed amount that we got to pay every month. And whenever something happens, like Andrea, we just call a landlord and they always just fix it. We remember when we were living in that house in Waterloo and the pipe bursts and then there's water leaking from the ceiling everywhere. And it's like, okay, whatever. I don't care. Call them. You know, they got to cut up the whole wall and change this, change that. It's like, it doesn't cost us anything. You know, they just go up and they just fix it. And then it's faster than... Like if you have to call your own for like a plumber, this guy always takes a couple weeks for someone to get there, and these guys, exactly, yeah. So like it's like I love the fact. I mean, it would be nice to own like a home that we know we're going to be in there for forever, but for us, we've always been kind of on the move. Been a year, 2-3 years in one spot, then we move again. Not having the hassle of a house and when's the good time to sell and all this stuff. It's just. Like you're saying, it's so liberating to know that you don't have to worry about anything.
The world is changing in that mindset. You can see it. I see it in a lot of like content-driven YouTube videos now.
Oh, yeah?
The whole like don't buy,
like rent versus buy,
rent versus buying, and it's like honestly. Let me just map this out for you very quick.
Yeah.
All right, you're gonna go buy a house. All right. Okay, so now I think the lowest price you're going to pay for a house here in Halifax, Nova Scotia is about $500,000.
Yeah, which is insane.
Which is just insane. Yeah, but you're going to go get that house. You're going to you're familiar with the transfer deed tax here, and so that's one point.
I don't even know all the different types.
So
of taxes.
I'm just going to do I'm just going to do some quick napkin math. Like I'm not. This is the top of my head. So a transfer deed tax as soon as you buy that house, 1.5%. Call that. You know, $8,000.
Right.
And then your cost of borrowing on that house, because more than likely you're going to take a mortgage. Not too many people have that kind of cash lying around to buy a house.
Yeah.
So the cost of borrowing on something like that is probably about $80,000.
Are we going to assume a 20% down payment so you don't have to pay the CMHC or whatever for the insurance?
Let's assume it. All right, but you're still
20%. So that's $100,000 cash.
Yeah, so you're still borrowing on $400,000.
Right.
So I borrowed on $230,000, and my cost of borrowing was around $40,000. It was about $40,000, and that was low interest rate. So I'm just going to use the number $80,000, and the banks will take that in the first 5 years.
The interest, yeah,
the interest. So it's all interest, no principal.
It's like I think there's a little bit of principal, isn't there?
There's a little bit of principal, but of course there's a little bit of principal, but
it's predominantly.
It's mostly a lot. I wouldn't say mostly, but. They get all that interest in 5 years.
Yeah, they want to get because they know
because they don't want you to pay that off and they don't get paid.
Exactly.
So unless you're paying cash, then next thing you know, you're in for lawyer fees, you're in for inspections, all these phantom costs just to get in the house. So you're about an extra. So calling that, you're about $100,000 on top of the purchase price.
Right.
So right off the bat, you're $100,000 to the wind.
Right.
That could be invested somewhere else. Now you hold that house for a long period of time. I'm telling you right now, if you hold that house within 10 years, you're probably looking on average $10,000 a year for miscellaneous, for maintenance, repairs. I'm telling you, that is a reality. That's about another $100,000.
And that's why I asked you earlier about, is your house newer? Because I feel like I'm hearing from people like newer constructions, they get issues right off the box.
Oh yeah.
Like they move in, they're like, oh shit, this was done very cheaply because they're built like it's almost like, not prefab homes, but it's like, what is it, like assembly line stuff, right? Like they just have people that are just doing their work, doing it kind of cheaply, and then the quality's kind of shit.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely like, I'm not very qualified, but I mean they're definitely making houses look nice with cheap material.
Right.
That is, you know what I mean? And also when you're buying new construction, you're paying the HST. right?
Yeah,
So you know what I
that
mean?
was the big thing that those politicians were like.
Yeah,
"Oh,
like
age
which
of-"
seems
whatever.
crazy. Like you want to buy a brand new house, why don't you just buy something a little bit older and not pay the HST on
Right.
top of it, right?
Because 14%, that's huge.
So,
When you're, especially when you're talking
back to my original point.
Sorry, let's get
so
going.
you're buying that $400,000 house, you know, so that, like I just mentioned about $100,000 right on top of that. You know what I mean? And then you own it for about another 10 years. Then you have to have about another $100,000 that just goes
So
to
it's 200,000.
which brings no value to your home, right? This I'm not talking about renovations. I'm talking about just upkeep,
just your maintenance,
upkeep,
furnace
unforeseen
goes,
repairs.
gotta get a new roof,
yeah,
whatever.
And then if you want to sell that house, then you have to budget another $50,000 just to get out of the thing.
Well, you got to pay the 5%, right?
You got to pay the
seller's
5%.
pocket.
Yeah, you got to do that. There's always going to be something you have to touch up on, fix it, and then usually you think you're going to get out of that house for what you get it for. Not usually. So what I'm trying to say is that those phantom costs of that house, all of a sudden you are, say you buy a house for $500,000, you ended up having to pay phantom costs of about $250,000 that got you no value. Yeah. Next thing you know, you're really into that house for $650. You try to sell it. Yeah. Maybe you might get $650 for it. Maybe not.
That's assuming that the market is going to be going up.
Appreciation for houses is very unpredictable. It's not in a lean. It's not like it's not charted like
it's just
like an index
10%
fund,
and that's it.
Yeah, you know what I mean. There's just too much. There's too many variables of getting in and out of a house.
Have you seen the stuff that's going on in Ontario and BC now with the housing prices? People are taking like 50-60% losses on stuff. It's mostly condos right now, but shit's crashing for a lot of people
on what they bought it for.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
but people bought way back in like 2021.
They're
like, hey.
So they're crashing on. They're actually crashing on the price of what they paid.
Yeah.
Excluding the amount of money that they put into
that's just the pocket of what they paid for and what they got it when they sold it.
So the argument that
foreclosed on,
the argument that's being made now, and where my mindset is, and I wish my mindset would have been there a while, but you learn from living and mistakes, right? Is that you rent, you paid a fixed cost, which is probably cheaper than a mortgage. So if I'm paying rent at $2,500, $2,600, which I'm paying right now, I have it's a nice 2-bedroom. It's you know, it's more higher on the luxury side, and I know that my mortgage, if I was to take a mortgage on a $500,000 house, would be cheaper than that. But I have excess capital to invest, so all the capital that I would be putting into the house just for maintenance, all that money that's creating me no value, I keep reinvesting it into the market that is growing for me. So if I would have done that from the very beginning of when I bought my house back in 2008. Just rented and then invested the difference instead of putting it in the house, my net worth would be doubled.
Have you done the numbers? So it's about double, right?
I can't do the numbers because I'd be severely depressed.
I
can do the mental math. Yeah. I did it once, like thinking about how much money I've dumped into my house over the 16 years. Yeah. And I came to the conclusion, like I put a lot of money into renovate. I increased the value. Yeah. But honestly, I feel like my house was a glorified savings account. I don't feel like I made, even though I bought it for $235, sold it for $625, which sounds sexy on paper. Yeah. I don't
sexy when you put in $400,000
for the amount of money I put into it and the time I put into it. I never came out on top. Yeah. Maybe I broke even. Maybe like I said, it was just a glorified savings account.
The whole housing market. This is totally going off to the side here, but maybe I'll just rant for a little bit. Though I hate the fact that can't speak up for other places, but here in Canada, that real estate, it's such a huge percentage of our GDP. I think it's between 40 and 50%, which is insane. But the fact that people treat real estate more as an investment than just a place that people need to live. And then speculators and investors come in and they buy up all the property. And then for people that just want a house because they have a family, they can't even afford it now because the prices are crazy. I hate that. I don't know what can be done about that. I don't think anything can be done unless they tighten up regulations on who can buy or whatever, but it's really frustrating. Like you see some houses here like down the street, 1.5 million. Like 1.5 million? Are you kidding me? If I had 1.5 million, like let's go down to Panama or Malaysia and see what you get with that. You're getting a castle. You know, like it's crazy.
You 1.5 million, and then you add on that 1.5 transfer D tax on top of it.
Oh my God.
That's, you know what I mean? That's what is that? That's
I'm gonna look at what a mortgage would cost on that.
Because you have to like million. You know what I mean, like it's quite insane. And like the other, and I mean you could do this for anything. Like I drive I have a fairly a fairly nice car. I paid a little bit of money for it, but it's definitely on the lower end of what some people are paying for the car. When you get up over like 60, 70, 80,000, or even get, you're paying that on your car, and you start adding the taxes that you pay on it, you could literally buy another car with the taxes.
Right. Yeah. That's
when it's crazy. Like, you literally, like, if you're getting in, you're getting into buying a $70,000 car, you're adding 50% tax to that. You could literally buy yourself a nice Honda Civic that could just do the same job with the tax.
Yeah.
Like, and then some people that buy, you obviously familiar with the luxury tax.
No, well,
cars over $100,000.
No, so what is this? Because I've never even thought of buying a car.
Look that up. What it actually is. There's a luxury tax on cars that
Is this a Canadian thing or provincial, like federal or
definitely Canadian? I don't know if it's provincial or not. I'm sure it's.
Canada's luxury tax implemented under the select luxury item tax September 21st applies to the sale, import, and lease of specific high-value vehicles, aircrafts, and vessels. Okay. Items priced, vehicles and aircraft over 100,000, vessels at 250. 10% of the retail price.
Just on top of it.
Yeah.
On top of it. So
that's
a
lot of money.
That's an extra $10K if you want to own something over $100,000.
I guess if you're wealthy, like we were talking earlier.
A lot of people.
But why would you want to though? Even if I'm wealthy, if I work so hard to make my money, I don't want to just give it away. For things I don't need.
Anyways, money does weird things to people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's not even funny. It's like, how people look at it, how they view it, how they save it, how they spend it. It's all different, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. Like, I read a very interesting book that really resonated with me. Die with Zero. Have you ever heard of it?
I know the premise.
You know the premise of it. It's kind of it gets thrown out there in the content world.
It's so hard to do because you don't know when you're gonna die.
It's not literally die with $0 because it's fine. It's very impossible to do that. But the whole concept is that we are too restricted to enjoy our money. Like, savers, savers are like too scared to are too scared to spend their money because they're afraid that one day they're not going to have it. Next thing you know, and it's all about enjoying your money while your energy is at its best.
Yeah.
So if you have that's kind of, that book really resonated with me, which is where I'm starting to get to in my point of time, is like, I want to enjoy my money.
Yeah.
And for a big part of me to enjoy it, I had to make the switch from living a liability asset driven lifestyle to a fixed budget lifestyle where I know exactly what my monthly output is with no liability. So I can
and then you know what your income's coming in, and
so I can freely spend. For example, if I have $10,000 coming in a month that I know is free and clear. So I know, well, my budget is $3,800 a month. Well, geez, that's giving me close.
You got wiggle room.
That gives me $5,000. That gives me $5,000 of freedom to just do whatever I want, no restrictions.
So you can reinvest it. You can spend it on stupid stuff if you want to, or you can do whatever you want. But you can do it with the mindset that you're not going to feel stressed about having to spend it. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, oh, am I okay to spend this? But if you budget it and you know that it can work, it alleviates all that pressure.
And another concept that came from that book and with money that really I pass it on to my friend who has children. And one of the biggest concepts is that you should give your child their inheritance early.
Oh yeah, Andrea, we talk about this all the time, right?
So many conversations. In
terms of how, like, I think that hits home. I think a lot of people think about money like backwards.
Yeah.
Like if you have kids, like we have kids, and say we're gonna end up being, say we got $10 million in the bank. And like, do we wait to give it to them when they're like 50 years old and then we're dead? Say we live till we're, if we live till we're 90, they're going to be, they'll be like 65, 70. I can't do the math here offhand. Yeah. But anyway, they'll be old. And generally when they're older, you don't need the money like you need it when you're young. So why would you wait?
You need it when you're young and when you're starting a family yourself.
Exactly.
That's
so they can start building wealth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
It's so backwards. And they're like, oh, we'll just wait till you like.
Yeah, so that really
don't get me started on that because maybe we can't talk about it, but that drives me crazy.
There's these concepts with money that can really create mindsets that can entrap you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because like, for example, like the loss of money is such a hit to the ego that making money just can't rectify.
Like what do you mean loss?
Well,
like
any type of loss. Like it could be anything. Well, you lost money in the market. You got this unforeseen
bills to pay, whatever that takes money out of your pocket
that you're not prepared for.
It just hurts.
It hurts, yeah, because we have weird attachments to money. So when we lose it, it's like we lose we're like somebody is like seriously coming at us.
But it's okay. I think it's okay to feel that feeling, especially if you're broke, right?
But why does making money not feel equally as amplified as losing money? And it doesn't. It's clinically proven that the loss of money is twice.
For sure, it hurts more.
It hurts more.
Isn't that Andrew? Would you say that that's like an evolutionary thing, that we're wired to seek out or to really hit home what something's danger, so we don't make that same mistake again, right?
But why is losing money so dangerous?
But I think like the big thing is it's ego, but I think it's also like it's shame. It's like that if you feel like ashamed, like I know we've definitely felt that before with money stuff. But why doesn't it feel as good to make money? I don't know. Or maybe it's like with gambling, when you win the money, like you get that rush. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing. Like, making money can feel so good, and especially when like the money comes unexpectedly. There's this. It's not so much like you have the money, but there's this extreme dopamine hit of like this. Like, because that's what I had to deal with in the stock market. The stock market. It's the hardest thing to navigate is the spikes in wealth. Because like you could be looking at your account, you get caught in a really good trend in the market, your money is going up hard and fast, and it's exhilarating, right? And then like the opposite can happen, and it's not. So the exhilaration is not as great as the depression of when it's going down. Because when it's going down, but it's very hard. It's very hard to deal with because it shouldn't be like that, because temporarily your money is just losing value. It's not real. It's just going down. But it's the hardest thing being a market participant, to be able to live with the ups and downs of the market.
Yeah, I feel like those are two different things from what you're saying. Because there's one thing, it's if you're going for wins and losses in the market, you're not still losing, like you still have the same amount of shares. It's just that it's gone up and down. But the idea of like losing actual physical money, I think that hurts more. Because, again, this is just my own thoughts here, so I could be wrong. Don't listen to me. But I think that is an evolutionary wire thing where humans really remember pain, and they remember painful instances to try to like remind us of like, let's not experience that again because it was so bad. And they leave a bigger scar than something that's just kind of happy, because your brain's just like, okay, well, whatever, it's a happy memory, fine. But bad things threaten your survival. Should it be that way? I don't know. But when you lose money, like if you're broke and then you lose $200 and that was your groceries for the week and you have literally no other money, that's going to hurt, because you're like, what the hell am I going to do this week? I literally can't buy food.
Yeah, you make a really good point there, because the thing about it is that those pathways of those particular times when you didn't have money and then losing money. But this can go up to the food chain to like multi-millionaires. Somebody that could have a $10 million net worth and they lose like $1 million of their net worth, where we could look at them and be like, dude, you still got $9 million. But to that person, he just became $1 million less richer than what he was. That is something that mentally they have to deal with the same way.
It's still going to hurt for sure.
Yeah. I think that getting back to like with the market and stuff like that, there is this correlation. Like it's even though you're typically, that's the hardest thing about the market, is that with your money's going, when the market's going down and you're losing value in a portfolio, you're not typically losing the money unless you sell out of the market, right? You're just watching your portfolio, but there is this animal instinct that it's hard to be able to live through that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, even though you haven't, like everybody will tell you haven't lost but looking at that right on the screen, you feel like you've lost. It's a loss. You feel like it won't come back. And I think that's the hardest thing for market participants to live. Like the hardest, like they say, volatility is the cost of admission to be in the market. That's the job. You live through the volatility, and living through the ups and downs, especially the downs of the market, watching your market value goes, and sometimes it can get really, really despair. It can go down. I've been through a few bear markets in my life, and they hurt. And even though I'm not this money, you feel like you've lost, because you think about where you were and you think, well, if I would have sold and protected my money, then I wouldn't be in this position. And that's the hardest thing about being a market participant, is being able to stay on the ride long enough to see that long-term wealth, is because the loss is so hard to deal with, even though the loss isn't real, but the feeling of losing money. And there's something that has been entrenched in a lot of our minds to be very reactful to the loss of money.
Let's dive into this a little bit and let's get into this investing, because I have a lot of questions. Because I think, well, obviously you've done a whole lot more investing than me, and I think our philosophies are completely, I don't know if they're completely different, but for me, I'm all about long-term index fund investing, right? We've talked about this before. Like, here's a fund, I'm just going to bring it up now, like XIC.TO. Like, I have funds like that. Like, I don't know if this is BlackRock or whatever. Like, forgive me if you don't like BlackRock or whatever.
Fill me in on what that is. That a worldwide ETF?
I think no, it's mostly Canadian, right? So they hold Royal Bank, TD Bank, Shopify, Enbridge, BMO.
Okay, it's like a TSX.
It's like the Canadian version of a
of
index.
I believe that's a TSX index fund.
Yeah. So like I have a couple of things like that, and just different index funds and different kind of some like tech index, but they're super, super simple. And I just buy them and I literally forget about it. And that's it. I have no plans on selling them basically, like, ever.
That's the smartest way to invest.
Like, when you're saying all these things, I get what you're saying, but I don't experience that because I don't care. Because like I have 150 shares of TD Bank. Like, who cares if it's up or down on a specific day?
You know why?
But that's because why?
You don't have enough in there. There's a certain amount of money that if you no, I'm not trying. Okay, I'm telling you right now, when you have a certain there is a certain amount of money that when you have it invested in the market, you start paying attention. And that number is different for everybody. But when you have your net worth in the market,
that's
and you know what I mean, that, and you're watching, you think about it is that's not your main thing. But the thing about it is you'll do very well in the market by that, because you have amount of money that it doesn't affect you. But when you have a certain amount of money in there, it makes you pay more attention.
Yeah.
Like, trust me, if you had $1 million in there, and that was a good chunk of your net worth, and that's
the difference. Yes.
And the market's going up, you're going to look at that and you're going to be like, oh my God, Andrea, our money's up 10%.
But it's not,
look at this, Andrea. Look at my snapshot on my phone. Look how much money we're up.
But it's not though. It's unrealized gains. I know that. I know that's not real until I sell it. And then if I sell, but I think the difference is because the money that I have now in stocks, like, that's, like you said, that's fun money, play money. That's the future stuff that I don't care about it because 10% goes into it. And that's not my main source of income. So yeah, I think I don't care. But if it was my main source of income, then yeah, I would be looking at it all the time. But I don't know if I would panic as much unless my livelihood, like my $5,000 I need a month to live, was coming out of that pool. And if that pool started to dwindle, then that would jeopardize my livelihood. Then of course I would be sweating like whatever, because I would be super panicked.
It's not about, well, the first thing about it is that I didn't mean it like you don't have enough money in the market. It's just, there's a certain level that makes a big dent in people's lives.
Yeah.
On the ups and the downs. Right. And, I think everybody should be investing in the market. I think it's the number one best way to grow your wealth is through markets. Whatever those type of markets you choose to be in, that's very personalized.
What do you mean when you say that? Like, people should go in the markets. Like, what does that mean? Like, say that I'm just a dumb idiot, which maybe I am, but like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So when I say the markets, I'm typically meaning, like global economy markets, the U.S. stock market, the Canadian stock market. You could choose to go in a worldwide. There's so many different ways to invest in stocks. Right. And stocks are very, broad based
pieces of companies,
pieces of industries.
And when you say markets, are you again like an index fund, simple, or just?
Well, this is where it gets personalized,
okay,
right?
That's the personalized thing. So markets are just the global market, or because like every country has its own stock exchange kind of thing, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's kind of what you mean, like figure out where.
In the markets, in the stock markets, you know what I mean, and but there's tons of other ways. The most successful investments where to put your money is, the first one is real estate. I don't quote me on the numbers,
which of course pisses me off because
real estate is
it's a whole other issue.
There's real estate, there's gold,
yeah,
which is actually worth on par with the S&P 500, which is crazy.
Has it always been kind of
gold just had a
bit,
huge rally these last 2 years because of the money printing, right? Which we can talk about later.
Which is
then there's stocks, which incorporates everything else, and then there's bonds, which is money markets, fixed income, right? But if you really, fixed income, it's set. But with markets, with the stock markets and the global markets, that's where the growth is, and that's where you want to be with your money. And however you want to invest in that, whether it's through index funds where you're picking individual stocks, whether you decide to invest in commodities, whether you want to invest in cryptocurrency. There's so many different areas.
Crypto's a little different than the market, though, right? Because that's kind of
its own market.
Yeah. It's its own market, so you could that's still a market, but it's its own market.
It's part of a diversified. It's part of many people's diversified portfolios.
Yeah, I got a little bit. A little bit, but
yeah. So me personally, I'm a big, huge believer in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
I do believe it's going to be the world's currency in the next however many years it takes. It
would be nice because of what's going on with, like you said, money printing and digital currency, and like governments having say over our money, right? Like when our Canadian government goes and prints a bunch of money, devalues our dollar, and then inflation goes through the roof. We don't have a say in that. It's basically them stealing money out of our pocket because now that $10 is only worth $5 now. You know what I mean? Like it's like, I think it's theft of what they're doing with our money, but to have a decentralized currency that the governments can't get their dirty paws in or whatever, right? So I love the idea.
Yeah, so that's kind of what is keeping Bitcoin kind of subdued right now. It's in a bear market right now.
Yeah,
and it's around $80,000 a coin.
Canadian or US?
This is US.
Okay, yeah.
And
what was the high?
So it was around 120.
120.
120 a coin.
That's a huge dip.
So it's a very steep discount.
It's
As
like
me,
40%,
it's about 35% of my portfolio. So but I mean, I'm on the ride, right? Like I'm not getting off the ride. I'm staying on the ride forever.
Now's the time to buy more Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you believe in it, you're getting a 40% discount.
Yeah.
But
or you could see it as like a 100,000% increase back in the day when it was only like a couple bucks per coin.
If you study the history of Bitcoin, and you've seen that it's done this many times in its cycle, but the fundamentals are only getting stronger. There's so much stuff building underneath the surface. There's, me personally, and I'm not into conspiracy theories or anything like that, but this whole money printing thing, if you really, I read a really great book called The Bitcoin Standard, and it kind of went through the history of currency.
Yeah.
But basically how they started with like seashells and pearls as currency and stones and all this stuff.
Did you hear about the stick one of notching things in sticks for being able to track like who's paying what or whatever?
No, I never really went that deep. But then gold and silver kind of made its mark, right?
Yeah.
And then, gold was so hard to transport, so they started writing out receipts for gold, right? And then, gold became the standard,
right.
and then they got into the money printing, with the World War II and all that stuff. We had to start funding wars and all that stuff. So, that's when the printer's starting. And then we got off the gold standard in 1971. And then the
that wasn't even the first time, because like you said, we got off the gold standard back in the World War. I think it's sometime after World War II.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I can't really confidently quote that, but it's just how the evolution of currency went, and then we became creating paper, and it was backed by gold. For a while, and then we got off the gold standard, and then now they're just printing money for everything, and it's really it's so crooked in my eyes, because they're just printing money to fund government, propaganda for everything government. It's really just lining their pockets, their programs, their initiatives. You know what I mean? And every time, when we're the ones that have to pay with it through inflation, right? And it's just, they're just driving that debt higher and higher and higher. Yeah. And that's why gold did this year what Bitcoiners are invested into Bitcoin for. And it's frustrating as a Bitcoiner to see Bitcoin go down and gold doing the thing that us Bitcoiners want Bitcoin to be there for. But this is also the thing where Bitcoin threatens central banks, right? And whether you believe it or not, I do believe that this subdue in price has something to do with them keeping it low until they're ready.
Until they're ready to take it over.
Until they're ready to, until they figure out the ways to get their hooks in there and to profit off of it.
Or to do their own cryptocurrency or version of it.
Well, there
which
is
is like digital currency in all these different countries, especially our countries.
Those things are in the works.
Yeah.
Like they're already like a strategic Bitcoin reserve being set up in the United States and in all other countries of the world. They're starting to adopt Bitcoin more. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of
we
when.
should talk about that at some point, another point, about what do we think of like digital currency and all that kind of stuff and how that could impact our ability to create wealth and all that kind of thing, especially if anybody can just kind of go into your wallet and take your money, or they can program it and just do whatever.
Well,
like that's a scary thing.
That's what deters a lot of people from it. They're like, because it's not, you get money in your bank account, you get cash in your hand. It's very, it's very easy to touch and see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, now that the evolution of Bitcoin with ETFs, now since they adopted Bitcoin ETFs about 2 years ago, that's what I own all my Bitcoin through, is through ETFs. I don't own.
So you don't actually own. That's interesting. So you don't own like actual Bitcoin in like a wallet.
No, I don't really understand. There's like, true Bitcoiners will say you have to
you gotta get
self custody. They call it
self storage.
Yeah.
Well, no one can touch it. Yeah.
Well, true Bitcoiners are very anti-government. They're like they're gonna come and steal everything from you.
Well, they can't take it if it's.
And we're
gonna
be the only ones that have the coins, and you have to like own it in this, and you have to have a key card, and you have to hide the key card in this little nook and cranny.
And if you lose it,
you're screwed, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know if I need that smoke in my life. You know what I'm saying? But but now that they have,
so what ETF I'm just gonna look it up right now.
So the most popular one is IBIT. That's
IBT.
IBIT.
IBIT.
So that's BlackRock's, and you can own it in Canada and in the US.
Which one do you IBIT? Is that .to then?
So I own both. I actually own I own some of my incorporated company in
NeoPNXA.
So it would be ibit.ca or .to.
I don't. It's not even coming. IBIT.
IBIT.
It's like not even coming up. IBIT. .to. I'm on Yahoo Finance.
That makes no sense. It should pop up right away. IBIT.
Yeah, IBIT. .to. Like, look at this. I'm typing this in, right? Like nothing's popping up.
Take the TO out of there.
Yeah, it comes up with a couple things. Like all these.
Right there.
Oh, it just doesn't say. Oh, it says like. Oh, it just says it's just not done as TO. Oh, because this is USD. Yeah, it's on the NASDAQ. Okay, yeah.
It's on the NASDAQ, but they also have they have a Canadian version of it too.
Okay, so this is you don't actually, so you're not buying. So this fund buys Bitcoin.
So this fund buys the Bitcoin. They're insured, and they charge you.
Who are they insured through?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the specifics of that.
Okay.
But they offer insurance on your asset, right?
Okay.
So they do all the holding. They self custody of the Bitcoin, and they charge you a management fee to manage it. But
0.25.
But you can hold that in your TFSA. You know what I mean?
You can hold anything in your TFSA. Yeah.
Well, you can't hold anything in your TFSA.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of restrictions of what you can hold in registered accounts.
Right. Sorry. I guess I should say it. I guess I think what people say about TFSA is that you really shouldn't think of it as just a savings account that you can go out and do like a lot of different investing in it.
It should be called a tax-free investing account.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It makes the whole savings account. It's really just it's a poor choice of words.
Because that's what people like. Some of the older people I know, they have just it's like, it's a savings account.
Let's touch that right now, because it blows my mind how many people do not know or understand what a TFSA is.
Andrea, do you know what it is?
Yeah, tax-free savings account.
Right. And what can you do with it?
You can put money in there and you can save it.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you take it out, though, you don't have to pay taxes on it. Yes.
Generally speaking, unless you've invested in something that they deem was not appropriate.
Well, no, it won't let you invest it if they deem it inappropriate. You will not be able to. It'll tell you right off the bat as you're trying to buy it, you're not allowed to buy this in your TFSA.
Does it really? Is that just through Wealthsimple, or is that through?
No, that's through. It's just like a set guard, because like, for example, you can't buy penny stocks, like random, like under, like there's certain amount. So certain companies that are being traded in the market, they can either, if they're not on a reputable exchange, you can't buy them in a TFSA. They're called pink sheets. So
that's Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, it's legit. It's called over the counter trading. Like these companies that, you know, like any company can go to market and do an IPO. Yeah. It's.
Do you want to buy some Pixel?
No, 100%. Like it's like these companies get a board of directors,
right?
And they get an idea, and they do a funding round.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
100%
on an idea, and they're listed on the OTC, and they can, you know, most of them are pump and dumps, which is just where they just sell a dream. And you'll get a bunch of people invested, pump the stock up.
That's like those rug pulling with the crypto stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what the whole premise of the Wolf of Wall Street was on, is that he was pumping these you know, just these dreams and ideas, but, you know, embellishing them and getting a bunch of people to buy into it, and then they all sell at the top and leave them holding the bag.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, 100%.
So you cannot buy that type of stuff in your TFSA.
Right.
But yeah, the TFSA is like it should be the most utilized instrument that we have, because yes, you buy all your investments bought in the TFSA, all the appreciation is tax free.
Yeah.
No questions asked. And you can, when you take that money out, you can replenish that money a year later.
Yeah. And yeah, so a couple things I want to touch up on that. So one, I do remember hearing a story of some Canadian that was doing stuff within their TFSA, but like he was buying stuff that he was legally allowed in a TFSA, but I guess the way he was doing it, because he was almost using it as like an active trading account.
Yes. Yeah.
And he was allowed to make those trades, but then when he withdrew all the money, the government was like, this was like a margin account or whatever, trading account. And he got dinged with like huge taxes. So it's not a vehicle for like day trading as an example.
This is the most frustrating part about it. This is the gray zone with the TFSA.
They don't tell you what
they say that is a no, but they don't let you know what the limitations are
until after.
Yeah, until after. Like, are you allowed to, like, there's no, like, tell us how many trades we're allowed to make a year or a month. Yeah. Just let us know so we don't go over it.
Right.
Like, or we're just going to start messing around with it. And I'll tell you right now, like, day trading and flipping in and out of stocks is hard as it is.
Yeah.
And if somebody earns a good amount of money doing that, I think that it's easier to buy and hold and make more money that way than to be able to flip in and
trying to trade.
Trade. So,
for sure.
You know, ironically, I feel like the person should be given, that's harder to do, so they should be able to keep it. But that's not the way.
That's what government doesn't work that way.
So
government doesn't reward hard work.
That's the tough thing, is when you take that money out, they can go back and look at you and be like, okay, that's too many. But you're not telling us what too many is. Right. What if it was like 10 trades less? Would that have been fine?
Yeah.
They don't want you making money on that thing, so they're happy to tell you, hey, that's too many. But just tell us what too many is.
Yeah.
And I think they should limit it. Let's just say, 5 trades a month.
But I feel like you should be able to, even then, like if you're just putting money into it, like you just buy a stock, like say you have it set up for like because I get paid, say you get paid every week. Okay, just buy like 10 shares or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not like buying and selling. I think that's where they might have a problem. Like if you bought every week, just bought shares and you weren't trading them, I think that would still be okay. I think it's like when you're actively like, oh, I bought 10 shares of this and then I sold them and then I rebought. And you know what I mean? Like there's a difference between active trading and active just purchasing stuff like on a drip almost.
Yeah, you have to, a trade is a buy and a sell, right? Like the sells are important, right? You could,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Like there's no limitation of how much you can buy.
That's what I meant. Yeah. So if you're just buying even every day, it's still not.
It's more about, I guess, from what because I went down the road where I was actively trading in my TFSA, and I wasn't making big money into it because there was so much nervousness around it.
Sure.
But it was also like, I don't have to report this, and I don't have to pay taxes on this. So it was like, I just wanted to like go wild.
Yeah. Let me build this up to $2 million.
Yeah, but then I do it for a couple of years and didn't get any knocks on the door, and then you kind of like. But after a while, I haven't done anything like that in 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
That was my early days.
Yeah.
But
it's learning the ropes and all that.
It is learning the ropes, but I mean, there is a lot of nerves, like because you just never know when they're going to throw the hammer down on you, right?
Yeah.
But the best way to do it is is to get long-term appreciation, and you can sell and take that money, and it's tax-free.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And like it's the best. Like you have to when you're getting into your investing journey, max out your TFSAs first.
The first thing you can do.
Max them out and invest everything you can in there, and then you move into, if you want to do an RRSP, or if you want, then you open up your margin cash accounts.
Or you could do like me, start a business, but that's a whole nother.
Well, let's get into that.
No, before we get into that, let's throw on the tinfoil conspiracy hat again, because you said more people need to be doing this on TFSAs, and I think, I know that more people need to do it because so many people don't know about it. Do you think that's by design? I mean, the Canadian government created this thing, which was one of the good things that the government has actually done for us, but yet nobody knows about it. Do you think that's done on purpose?
No, I don't think it's done on purpose. I just think people are, you know what? It blows my mind how many people do not understand just a little bit of finance at this day and age, like, and how restricted they are to learning about it.
But doesn't that all fall on the same thing of like our education system, which at the end of the day is the curriculum? Andrea, correct me if I'm wrong, but the provincial governments make the curriculums.
100%.
Yeah.
So why don't they put that in the curriculum of teaching people of the Canadian tax code?
Finance needs to be, I think it needs to be like the number one priority in high school.
Getting back to what we were talking about, it's the number one thing in our life, whether we want to or not.
I mean, what's the point of us going and making money if we have no idea what to do with it? You know what I mean? Because like the whole point, like,
it's a really good question.
You know, like money, it's a tool. You know, we get back. Money it's a tool for happiness. You know what I mean? It buys your independence. That's the best currency. That's the best use of the currency for me personally is to buy your independence. So you can finally have, you know, so you can have the peace in mind to actually enjoy your life, because like, you know, not having your basic needs met and to be able to struggle, it's a place that I never want to be. I never really have been there because I've been great with money since I was 19 years old. I've always been a saver. I've always made sure I had a certain amount of money before I started updating my lifestyle, you know. But I know most people don't live that way, and by choices, you know, and it's
by choice or by, like you said, ignorance of just not knowing.
Yeah, but at the
whether it's their fault or not.
At the same time, I've talked, you know, I used to go down this path of like, you know, trying to preach investing, and you know, preaching health and preaching investing to people. And like, you know, just trying to tell them, no, man, you gotta start doing this. You gotta start getting some money, you know, and getting some money in these investments and start building.
Nobody likes being told what to do.
No, and they're very closed off to it, right? And it's like, and you know, it's all the same stuff. You're like, oh, I don't have enough money to do that, and you know, or I have a pension with my company, and that's all I need.
God.
You know, that's another one there too, and you know, but
these must be older guys too, because pensions nowadays, I don't know who's getting a job that has a pension.
Yeah,
like,
what the
hell?
I know my father's pension was cut in half throughout his lifetime when he got it. You know, my dad he worked at a pulp mill back in Cape Breton.
Yeah,
and you know they never had investments.
Yeah,
you know, and my parents, you know, it was all you know, they worked. He worked till he died, right?
Yeah, but then again, a house cost like $50,000 and it didn't cost $1.5 million, so things were a little bit more
but that's
affordable.
all.
But yeah,
that's all in respect to what the value of money was back then too, right?
But it's gone crazy though. Like the housing prices have, like, in terms of inflation, like, yeah, the money, say it's 5 times less now, but the housing is like 50 times more. You know what I mean? It's disconnected from inflation and the reduction of money.
Yeah, I feel like
it's so far off any kind of,
you know, do you think, like, you know, back when the $50,000 house turned into, that our parents might have had back in the 70s, turned into, you know, 150,000 maybe in the 90s, and then turned into a $300,000 house in the early 2000s. Now that house is worth $600,000, right? Do you think that growth is going to continue in the future?
Oh, it definitely won't, because it's so far decoupled from reality and what people's salaries are, that there's going to be a point where no one's going to be able to buy anything, like, for these houses. So it's going to have to come down for sure.
So you don't think that was a problem back then though either? You don't think people were priced out of homes?
I think there's always going to be people price homes, but not for the most part. I don't think. Like again, I don't know. This is just me, like kind of thinking back.
Do you think in 20 years that the medium house price is going to be $2 million?
I don't know. In 20 years.
If it follows the trajectory that the housing market has been, it's crazy. But
it's
if you look at the trajectory of the pricing of homes from the 60s to where it's at now, it's following the same trajectory.
But not with salary though. Right.
No, the salaries haven't kept up. Exactly.
That's what I mean. So like it can't just keep going off exponentially increasing in housing, because say it does go up to $2 million a house, like people are going to be making what, $80,000? Like then the mortgage, like the mortgage on 1.5 million is like $7,000 a month. How are you going to, if you don't even make $77,000 a month, who's going to be able to afford that? It can't just keep going up.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The cost of living is definitely outpacing wage growth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like we're in such a huge gap of haves and have-nots. I feel like this gap is just getting wider and wider. Back in like, the 50s and the 60s, there was such an even keel of wealth. You know what I mean? It was very, everybody, it seemed like most people were on the same path to wealth. But you know what happened, in my opinion? What happened that started breaking that gap?
Well, there's a big thing in 1971, which is the breaking off of the gold standard. That's one thing. But
also the evolution of credit cards.
Oh, the debt cycle.
The debt cycle, yeah.
Have you seen this video? It's called The Changing World Order by Ray Dalio.
Okay.
It is a phenomenal... You know Ray Dalio?
He's very doom and gloom, very pessimistic.
But he's like a big time investor.
I know.
Yeah.
Can't be in my world and not know who guys like that
are. Yeah. So, but his videos are really good because he's like, just look at history, and he just talks about the ebbs and flows and just the way economics works in terms of having credits and debits and credit and like printing money, whatever. Anyways, I can't describe it very, very well. But he talks about there's always going to be these boom bust cycles. There's mini cycles, and then there's larger cycles. And he talks about that with the printing money, and then the credit, and people getting to debt, and then it gets to the point where it just kind of collapses, and then everything goes, and then everyone kind of starts back at like a more of a level playing field, and then you build back up. So just by the nature of money and how it works, you're going to have boom bust cycles, which is unfortunate.
It's the inflation of the bubble.
Rolando, how's it going? Greetings from Mexico. It's been a long time. How you been? How you holding up? Because there's been some not good stuff happening down in Mexico, eh?
Rolando.
So hope everything's going well, man. Just chime in. We got lots to talk about. There's lots of been going on here in Pixel and everything. So good to see you. Good to hear from you. But yeah, anyways, like about credit. So what are you saying about?
Yeah, so it's basically they started, like back when people started coming back from World War II, they wanted to, boost the economy. They started, making people wanted to start getting people in the economy, started giving people homes, and they're just a nice middle class family. That was the norm. That was like 80% of the population was all living in this nice middle class, a lot of equals. There wasn't this big gap of haves and have-nots. And then they started opening up the credit system and creating credit cards, and then people started living outside their means, buying stuff on credit, and creating all these debt bubbles. And over time, that gap just started evolving. Yeah. And now, we get to where we're at today, right? And with all that whole debt bubble comes the inflation. Yeah. And it's just, and then money printing. And it's like, but it all started with letting people borrow.
And you're talking more on the consumer side, like consumer debt, as opposed to like just government debt. Just all debt. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, obviously, it's crazy what people will do when you give them access to debt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody pays attention to the 19-25% interest rate on a credit card. They just say, well,
they're lucky if they're getting that, because some of them are like 30%, which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. And but it's also blows my mind that people don't think like that. Like,
they don't understand 20%. Maybe they don't even understand like how much that is, because it's insane.
Oh, it's crazy. 20%. It's crazy.
Legal.
I mean, the funny thing, back in, I don't know what it was, the 87s, like a house mortgage was like 17%.
That's right, eh?
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll get to that at some point.
That was like, that was a moment in time that was like, we had like the biggest inflation hike, I think, in history. Yeah, that was
crazy. Did I ever tell you the story of the time where, I think, Andrew, you've heard the story, where my father started like a loan shark business.
No.
And I was like, so he started a loan shark business.
Good business.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I'm like, he was telling me about it. It's like, and this is, he told me about it. I'm like, okay, so hang on a second. You go out and give someone $100, and then I go in the next couple of days or next week and collect 120. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, that seems like a pretty good deal. Yeah. So he started that. I think he started with a few $100. And then, he'd go out and then, he'd collect the money. And then the people that couldn't pay, because of course there's going to be people that wouldn't pay, then, you take them to small courts or small claims courts or whatever. So, but anyways.
Thought maybe he might have went breaking legs or something like that.
No, but this is no. But the thing was that I ended up being the guy that would always have to go drop off and pick up money.
Oh
my God. And I was like, grades.
You were like 18.
Like I was just 18 years old.
And what kind of sums of money are we talking about here?
And I think the most, like I'd probably go around with like over $1,000 cash, just going to different places. But I think the most one guy, $400 or $500. But the thing is then I'm going to these places and they're in the not nice parts of town because there's a place you can't go. These guys aren't going to payday loans or whatever. And most people were nice, or like they were like thanking me. Oh, thank you so much for helping me out. I'm like, how's this helping you out? You gave me $100, and then 2 days later, you pay me 120. Like that doesn't seem like a really good investment on your part. But they had no choice. But I don't know whether I'm going with the story, but it was just devastating to see all these people it's having nothing for money and then making these decisions where like you got to be able to make better decisions. But then it ended up getting into like I would have to take collateral for some things now, and then I was like, it was getting so ridiculous. And that was a whole nother story. It was like picking up guys' stereos and shit. And like, what am I doing here? Like it was crazy.
Collections agencies. There's a huge industry of collection agencies that are hired to go after people for their money, right?
Their cars or repo their cars or whatever.
Yeah. what like it's we're such like this is a whole other angle to look at, but I'm very not like dead against the consumer industry, like just consumption, like whether it be materials, food, like we are just driven and manipulated and influenced to consume. Yeah. And it's like, and we don't need hardly any of this stuff. It's in our faces all the time. And like, it's just getting greater and greater and greater.
For
like,
sure.
The stuff, like I was watching a movie on Amazon the other day, and the ads come out, and it was an ad for like a Swiffer jet or something like that. And I'm watching it, and then there's this other little window that pops up.
Like click here to buy it.
To buy the Swiffer jet, just hit this button and goes right to your card.
Accidentally click it.
It's like not only do I have to watch the infomercials, there's somewhere right now that I can click on the button and buy it right there. Like not even like take the next step, go to my laptop, try to find it, and then buy it. No,
well, why do you want to do that hassle? Yeah.
It's right there now. So like, when you're watching something late at night and when you're like the most vulnerable to buy something, they're preying on you.
Well, it's smart on the company for doing that. I'm not saying whether it's good or bad. That's a whole other thing, but
this is the thing, but people will go do that and they put it on their credit cards. That's what you have to buy on. And people don't pay attention whether they're maxed, where their credit card limits are for the most part, right? Yeah. Like I'm one of those guys that has credit cards and as soon like I pay it off every week.
Yeah.
I never carry a balance. It's all about collecting.
Let's get the points.
It's all about collecting points. And,
for sure.
And you need a credit card, right, to make most purchases, right? But I'm wired to be able to handle that. You know what I mean? There's some things I'm definitely not wired for, but money is just one thing that I'm confident in how my mind is built for it. But for most people, they should not be subjected to that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Especially around Christmas time when people feel that they need to have
the pressure of buying stuff.
The pressure. They feel like they have to have things at Christmas. It would be a big loss for them to not have this spread of indulgence around Christmas. You know what I mean? Which blows my mind because I have some people in my family that definitely should not be overspending on Christmas. And I go there.
Or not spending at all.
Yeah. And I go there and I'm looking around and I'm like,
what are you doing?
Listen, this is too much. And for stuff that creates no value, that is just eventually going to go in the trash in a couple of years anyway.
Andrea, we've talked a lot about that, with Christmas and like, especially when we're younger. And this is the whole thing too. We're talking about when you're younger is when you need the money the most from parents or what have you, if you're going to have an inheritance. But the whole idea of like, well, we got to buy presents for this people or these people and like budget for that. And then it's like, why are we even buying this? Why are we buying this for the people? So Yeah, whether it's you put the pressure on yourself or
I think the other big thing is if you have kids and you have kids in school and then they're comparing to the other kids what they're getting for Christmas, and so it becomes this, it's like a difficult kind of
so like the
social
parents
thing.
will feel guilty about
especially when
what
you throw
their kids are talking about.
Especially when you throw Santa in the mix, and like one kid's like, "Oh, Santa got me this big dirt bike," and this other kid is like, "Oh, well, Santa must not like me. I just got me a pair of gloves." Piece of shit, right? Yeah. So it's difficult.
That's interesting. Yeah, with the whole kids angle. But I know we've obviously never succumbed to that because we're just like, whatever.
We're just like, well, my whole thing is like something to wear, something to read, something they want, something they need, and like, that's it.
I like that.
But there was always the talks too that we've had of like, okay, well, who do we buy presents for in like the extended family?
Yeah.
And then I was like, because I'd be like, I'm like, why are we buying this for this person? Like,
well,
we never even see them. Like, I don't even know what they like.
Well,
but it's like, well, let's just get them a gift card. Well, then they're just going to buy us a gift card back.
Even like the Secret Santa at my dad's now, it's up to like $75 a person.
Is that what
and
it
I'm
is?
like, I see these people like, well, I don't see them once a year anymore now that we live here, but it's just like, I don't know what you would even want for $75.
Man, like the $50, $70, $100.
It's inflation. It's Christmas inflation.
These things, they especially on Christmas time, they all just start adding up.
Yeah.
It's like
Christmas
say
huge.
like extended family. It's like, okay, well, you have to get something for your brother. Do you have to get something for, his wife, and then then if you go down that road, then you got to think about your aunt, and then you're getting another aunt, and then I'm leaving this person out. I'm very upfront, and like that's the thing I kind of like. I've always been kind of like deemed like a cheapskate amongst my peers. I wear that badge. I wear that as a badge of honor. I was like, look
who's got the zeros in the bank account?
Well, I mean, I don't want to flex like that, but at the same time, it's like it's just all. If there's no value, like you have to kind of like have this value ranking system of things in your life, and if it doesn't reach a certain value ranking, then don't buy it. Put it in investments. Yeah. Like whatever. If it say, listen, is this better off? Do I need this? Is this going to buy me something that's going to create this immense amount of value? Yeah. If not, then put it in the market. Or put it in your business, or put it somewhere where it's going to grow and build you a life of independence.
You need a lot of discipline for that, and you need to keep your eye on the prize. I think human beings have a really hard time of putting off short-term gain for like long-term gain, right? Like we're all about give me that dopamine hit now, right? Yeah. Like same thing with like going to the gym. I got to go to the gym every day. It's going to take me 6 months to see results. Like, screw it. I'm not going to do that anymore. Because I can't go to the gym once and just pump it out and then be huge. Like
it's one of the easiest, hardest things to do.
Yeah. 100%.
You know what I mean? That's
Rolando, due to abusive corporate practices regarding the incentivization of purchases, advanced societies such as the Nordic countries do not allow advertisements targeted at minors under the age of 16. That's actually a really good point, because there's not a lot of countries, but there's talk, like even Australia, didn't they ban social media for kids under 16? And isn't Alberta doing that as well? About banning social media?
It's common.
I'm not sure.
It's common,
It's in the works. Like you're starting to see high schools starting to ban it.
Can you bring that back up again? Sorry, Andrew.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, high school starting to ban it. And I think that goes through, Rolando, with what you're saying here. Advanced societies are people just realizing how precious our kids are and how much corporations are having, I guess, evil practices or what have you.
But it's even worse than that. Sorry to interrupt, but back in the day, this is a really old documentary called The Corporation. And these corporations have psychiatrists, like child psychiatrists, to figure out the best commercials to make for kids to get parents to buy stuff. So.
Right.
Yeah, I have such a like a
targeting kids to get at the parents, to get at the money. Yep. Which is that's
that's the thing, right? Like this whole world, like this, back to my initial point of this consumption, like greed, consumption. It starts at like the corporate level. Like they just want to keep us spending. They want us to go in debt. They want us to keep, and it even trickles into like the food system, which is a big one. They just wanted, like, our bodies, like, we'll touch a bit, but our bodies are not meant to handle large amounts of food.
Yeah, and large amounts of processed sugars. And
that's a whole different bag of hammers. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously, that's not. Like, I mean, we'll talk about that in later episodes. But our bodies are not meant to handle large amounts of food, and I'm learning that myself. I'm going through this phase right now where I was going through a lot of digestive issues, and I kept trying to love you things, and I just realized
you're putting too much on your plate.
I'm putting way too much on my
even
plate.
If it's healthy. It's just
even
like,
if
what
it's
do you
healthy,
need? Like
because
5 chicken breasts all stacked up.
And because it's like, that's kind of like how, food is, enjoyment, and, it's everywhere, and it's like it's deemed so socially acceptable to just to eat food. You bond around food, but literally, like, food is strictly just about nourishment.
Yeah.
And getting back to like possessions and consumption, like clothes and jewelry and all these things that they're just creating out of nowhere for us to, and they're creating a reason why we should have them, which is driving me crazy.
That's the advertisement. It's like, oh, here's this new thing, and like it makes it, your friends are going to have it, or this will be the envy of your friends, and then you just have to buy it because that'll fulfill something that you feel like you need.
Whenever a product is created and taken to market, there's the biggest budget expenses in the marketing, not the product.
Yeah, which is
you
crazy.
know what I mean? Which is crazy. They're like, okay, we got something here. It's okay, but let's put all the money here to figure out how we're going to make these people want this, or let's make it feel like how they need this product. Like, they're literally sitting there trying to strategize, how are we going to make people think they need this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then let's create the need, and which will create the demand, and then we're going to pump it to them. They don't care whether that drains our pocketbooks, whether we have to go into debt to own this thing, as long as they're getting paid. And that's what the whole world, like Amazon's whole premise is built on that.
Yeah.
How to like make our lives so easy to consume. Like I was talking with that commercial. Like, I couldn't believe I was looking at that last night. I was like, I almost want to buy, like, I don't want to, but like I could almost buy this Swiffer wet jet with my controller.
And it'll be at your front door like the next day. Yeah, it's crazy. It's funny, Cole. So I don't know if I'm different, and Rolando knows because we talk about capitalism and ever. And missed the end of the stream. Could you introduce? Yeah, okay, yeah. Let's go for it.
Sorry, my name is Luke Budd. I one of good friends with Odooms. Me and him play a lot of hockey together. Realized we have a lot in common, and my background is in health and wellness, personal trainer, nutritionalist, and I'm a full-time investor of over 10 years experience. And we just had a lot of great conversations, and we decided that we wanted to create this little channel for ourselves, for our own personal journey and our growth in life. But we also wanted to share it with other people and try to build a nice little network just to help people kind of grow in their own at their own pace, and just kind of be more relatable with the middle class, and cut out all this optimization with the billionaire stuff that's taken over the algorithms now. But it's really nice to hear from you.
Yeah, and Rolando, he was I don't know if you've seen, he was on a podcast on Unconventional Mindset, and about investing, and it was I don't know what the title was, but it's like something about you're making like $30K a month or something like that, or whatever it was. So it was fantastic, and then of course learning about investments and stuff, great for me to learn.
You can go back and
check
out that video. I'm sure it's in the archives.
About business, and Rolando was talking about you and I have had many, Rolando and I, we've had many conversations about kind of capitalism and business and all that kind of stuff, because I've been putting online my whole thing about building a business, but I have a completely different mindset of how I want to do business. And Andrea, you could probably speak this because I talk to you about this all the time, is I'm trying to create the best product out there to help other people do better in their business, to create a lot of value in their business. And I've spent nothing on marketing, and people are kind of seeing that. And I think the way how I'm being so successful is that I have created something that it's not for just creating something to make money. It's creating something to actually provide a service, and a good service, to the world. And then if you have that product, you don't have to do marketing. I don't have to try to reach people's kids and get them to come to my business or whatever, because you're actually doing good and you want to do good. And I think that's a philosophy that I don't think as many people have in business that probably should have that philosophy, because they're worried more about making money first. And like, how could I make money? It's like, no, well, how could you provide value to people? And then when you build something around that, I think you're going to have a much better time to create something that's going to be able to sustain you long term, and to be able to build like that asset that's going to be able to generate a whole bunch of revenue for you. So anyways, it's interesting. It's an interesting mindset.
It's a very organic approach.
Yeah.
Right. But it's kind of like, you know, getting back to like this whole concept of wealth and money. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of people would love to know, like, you know, what's the best way for me to build wealth. And I'm sure we're like trying to talk to that. And maybe we can start unpacking that a little bit. Just maybe if we can, like, you know, break it down a little bit for our thoughts on, you know, how can people, you know, build wealth, or people are trying to, maybe even people are sitting there and feel like they're kind of like priced out of the market, or they're too old to start investing, or they're too old to start a business, or they have no idea to go about it. But just to touch on that point, I mean, I think the first thing you need to do is you have to define what wealth is for you first. Yeah. And like I said, for me, it is to have wealth is for me to have complete independence, to be able, for me and my wife to be able to be together in peace and not be driven by the rat race of trying to have more than what we need. Yeah. Which, you know, a certain amount of wealth will give us that, but I think it's developing the mindset that will keep you in that space, because there's no amount of wealth that I'm sure you're gonna be like, okay, that's it, done. I'm done working. I'm done making money. I'm set for life. Because I just feel like there has to be a place of where you feel that this is enough, where I don't have to work at something I don't want to do, or take unnecessary risks that I don't have to lose what I've already accumulated. Yeah.
I think to expand on that, the next kind of question you can ask yourself is like, what's your time frame for how long you're going to give yourself to get to that level where you're comfortable? Like, you know what I mean? Like putting together maybe steps. Because like you said, people will say, well, I can't invest now because I don't have enough money, or it's not going to make me rich overnight. Okay, sure. But then how long do you think you can like, if you worked at it today and you started, like if you started investing or you started making a business or whatever it is for you, how long is it going to take you to get to where you're going to have some more breathing room and that you can keep working? Do you know what I mean? Like, you got to have some kind of roadmap or some kind of plan put in place.
I think one of the important things also is that it's really hard to build wealth on income, because, and what I mean by that is, like, you know, you can work at a job and make income, right? Yeah. That is kind of like, you know, the most
standard way.
It's most standard way of making, you know, they work a job, they get promotions, they climb the corporate ladder, they increase their income. Yeah. But if they're not doing the right things with that income, they're not creating wealth. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you can create income, but you have to have, you have to have a mindset that I'm not just making money to spend. I want to create long-term wealth. And you said the most important part, you have to have a time frame, and the time frame is forever. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like, well, I mean the time frame in terms of, like, because you're in a situation now that you're working a job that you want to get out of because you want to have that freedom. Yeah. Right? Like, what's the time frame?
Well, I guess you have to be kind of, you know, set in you have to kind of set it in stone that I want to leave. My version of wealth is that I want to leave this job and be self-sufficient on my wealth. Right. Or I want to start a business that I can hand the business off and I can take a dividend from this company and I can live off my company, or I sell my company. You know what I mean? There has to be some sort of outside source other than income. Yeah.
And I guess I'll just say, I'll put the caveat saying that if you're a type of person that just wants to have a job and make that income, but then be smart with your money and do that long-term investing, and you want to put that money in your index funds for 40 years, and that's your plan to make millions by the time in 40 years with the compound growth, that's okay too. I think that's a totally valid way.
I personally think that's the best way
for most people.
Yeah, for most people. Yeah. So first of all, starting a business, it's very difficult. You know, it's very labor intensive. It's not guaranteed.
That's
you know,
true.
That's the other thing too, right? But I'm not deterring people to go after it, because, you know,
I will shout from the rooftops for everyone to give it a try. If they feel that they have the temperament for it.
I have my share of business ventures, and you know, very unsuccessful.
We'll have to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, it was more investing in small businesses. And private placements and stuff like that.
Private equity kind of
stuff.
Private
equity stuff. Okay, yeah. And
you were doing the private equity investing, or you're trying to create?
Yeah. You know, like when a lot of companies are first coming to market and they have, you know, they're starting off and they do private rounds where, they have shares of company. And I mean, they were legitimate companies. I did, but they were companies that were doing $1 million in revenue. You know what I mean? They had decent market caps. They weren't just little. They weren't your your little lawn mowing companies. You know what I mean? These were legitimate companies. But everyone that I've invested, I probably invested into like 4 different ones between like the marijuana industry, the crypto industry, and.
Did they all fail?
They all failed. Yeah, they all went to zero.
It's tough, man.
And but there's one in like every so often you'll hear this one that actually gets IPO'd.
Yeah.
And people that bought those shares privately, they made millions on their share.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing.
And that they sell you the dream because this, because usually there's not grifters, but there's people, there's grifters, but there's people that are hired to do the recruiting for these private placements. And once these recruiters have one winning company under their belt, they use that as their leverage. Well, listen, I got this person into XY company and they just went to IPO and they just made $1 million. So this is my next company right here. Yeah. And I got sucked into that game, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's where this is only a bit of a side, but if you're looking at companies to invest, that's where you got to look at the founder and look at the underlying structure of like, why are they in business, right? Like, are they in business just to try to make money? Or are they actually trying to do something?
I think that's
good?
one of the biggest. I think one of the biggest, like I call it a scam, but one of the biggest things that people do is they get together. They just know how to start companies. They got ideas. They get CEOs. They get board of directors. They get the prospectus. They send the prospectus out. They get an initial funding round.
Yeah.
And they have a little bit of money in the bank and say, this is our plan. This is our idea. Yeah. We're doing this round. This is the friends and family round is what they sell you. When you're getting in the friends and family round, 10 cents a share.
That's crazy.
You give me $10,000, you get 10 cents a share. We IPO at $2. Your $10,000 is
$200,000 or whatever.
Yeah, and it's seductive.
It's funny.
It's very seductive.
I've talked to a few people with like private equity firms, and I've tried to build a businesses going that route as well to get funding, and it's not for me. And I'm not saying it's a bad way to go, trying to get funding or whatever. But for me, it's like I just try to bootstrap everything. At first, I do web design. I'm just going to try to get clients. Like I'm just going to try to make money. Like the amount of work it takes to just try to get investors. It's so much time and you're not actually building anything. Mm-hmm. So like all these guys, some guys are really good at it. They'll go out there, like you said, they get the board, their friends. I have an idea. I'm going to do this, do that. Boom. They got $5 million in the bank, but they don't have a business.
No, you're buying the idea.
Oh, and then they got to hire all these people, whatever. Then you're just bleeding money. You don't actually have a product. It's crazy. I can't build a business that way. It's ridiculous. A minimum of 15 years. That was the limit for me. Before that, I couldn't slow down my work pace. But from year 9 onwards, I no longer needed to work to live as opposed to just living. And I imagine that's like a fantastic feeling, like for you to not have to worry about that. You don't have to work to live as opposed to just surviving. Because that's an awful feeling.
But that's the amazing thing, though. It's like a minimum of 15 years. Yeah, that is the minimum. And honestly, I feel like that's not even that long of a time. You know what I mean? 15 years, you think like the most important thing, like whether I don't know if he's talking about investing or not, but the most important like element of investing is time. The more time you have to compound, the more wealth you have. So I mean,
whether it's investing in stocks or investing in yourself and building a business, I think it's still kind of the same thing where it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time.
2 different animals
for sure.
The thing with building a business is that thing. The growth trajectory is not linear. It's not very predictable. Like the stock market is
somewhat.
With the markets, you can average it out to like S&P averages to about 10 to 12 on average. Some years you have your 20, 30%. Some years you have your bear markets, but on average, with a business. It's, that thing, you could be selling that, businesses could sell for hundreds of millions of dollars in the course of like 10 years.
Yeah, or it could go to zero.
Yeah, or it goes to zero, right? 100%. But like I said, business is, business is it's another, that's the other thing. If you're going to create wealth, you either have to invest in yourself through a business, or you want to invest in something that gives you long-term value, like a commodity, like a stock market index, something like that. But the thing about it is that it's not, one of the famous quotes is, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. And it's about how long you can stay on that ride for and have a consistent plan to keep contributing to those investments.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, for me, I think the most important thing is knowing what you want. And for me, not having to be part of the rat race, having my time to myself, having my wife with me to have her, be able to take her away from her job, having to be able to just have enough money to be able to live a nice, comfortable life, be able to go on some nice vacations, you know, not live the lavish lifestyle, but, you know, be able to have a comfortable lifestyle where you're not really bombarded with the everyday stresses of life.
Yeah.
You just cut out 90% of what really ails most citizens of, you know, of the world.
Which usually has to do with some kind of money because you can't buy food.
If you
or
can
whatever.
set that into your mind, like that's what I want.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want. And I'm willing to wait for that to happen. I know it's not going to happen right now, but you need to set it in your mind that that is the ultimate goal. And if you can get that into your mind, then everything that you put your money into, if it doesn't create value, it needs to go into that bucket that's going to create long-term value. And that's how you're going to succeed, by having that driven mindset.
And keep that in your mind and don't forget it.
And not getting caught up in the, you know, the frivolous crap in the world of what everybody else has and you don't have. Because one day you will have something that they don't have. And
especially if you got the discipline to be able to
there's
do
just
this.
so much crap about overnight successes. Like, you know what I mean? Some girl goes and, does something crude on the internet, and all of a sudden she's gone viral.
Oh, you're talking the Haktua girl,
yeah, it's exactly what I'm talking about.
The rise and fall. Yeah,
just little crap like that. They see that, and you know what I mean. That's why, like, you know, my wife's a 6th grade teacher, and she says all the kids just want to be YouTubers because they see this one little aspect of, like, you know what I mean. Obviously, the algorithm just pops out the most popular YouTubers.
It does, but it's game now too, which is a whole nother thing about people buying views and how they can game the algorithm.
Oh, I know that firsthand.
Right,
I've been told about people buying, how they can buy
but
subscribers.
They do it legitimately in terms of what people are doing is they're actually, what is it that they're doing? Yeah, they're paying other people to clip their shows and putting it on theirs and get real views from their accounts, and it aggregates, and then that triggers the algorithm that people are watching.
There's so many different strategies.
And they're paying for it.
Yeah, there's so many different strategies to, like, up your presence.
Oh yeah,
and then once, and like,
it's
the thing about it is,
at the end of the day, everything's pay to play. It's
but
crazy.
with that being said, it's like it's killing the desire for people to have long-term mindsets to build wealth, because they're wasting their time trying to be these overnight successes,
and be these viral,
which is like a
or
0.1% of people actually successful at it.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? And if they just would, you know, focus on doing the consistent thing, like investing the difference of what you don't need, like make sure you have your basic needs and have a little bit of, like, you know, enjoyment in your life. But if once you reach that threshold, everything else should be in investments, so you can have the life of independence as soon as you can. I think being 65 is too old to have your independence, personally.
Oh, that's insane. Because I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to skate and walk anymore.
Well, I'm not saying 65 is old.
No,
but I think people need to, like, you know, escape the rat race a lot earlier before that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, Rolando, yes, my first investment was in my cemetery plot and my funeral plan. From there, it was real estate and 1-year investments with moderate returns, mostly real estate and some local businesses. Yeah, right on. That's awesome. How did you get involved in cemeteries? That's interesting. I'd love to know a little bit more about that. It's like there's so many different ways to go to building wealth.
Man,
right?
That's the other thing too. It's there's so many different ways to, like I said, to be in business.
Yeah.
To be invested. Like, being investment is not, like, as we said, it's not just about the stock market. People can be invested in so many different ways. Is when you're creating passive income, you know, where your money is being put somewhere that is creating you wealth. It doesn't have to be in an index.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just looking at like a compound interest and just thinking about how it doesn't take long. Like, I try to tell the people, like, as soon as you can open up a TFSA, if you can start putting, like, whatever amount of money into it and then grow it, like, it'll be a lot of money. And if you put $500 a month, which is, I think, around $6,000, which is about what the limit is. So if you do that at a 10% return.
The limit for what, sorry?
TFSA. I think it's like 6,000. It goes up. I think it varies.
Oh, it's like 7,000 right now.
7,000. So
but you can backdate it back to 2018. So
if you
haven't contributed,
if you're older,
let's just
just saying, if you turn 18, so in 30 years, so 18, that's still old because that's still 48 years old. but that's $1.13 million
By the time you're 48.
by the time you're 48, and that's $500 a month if you start at your 18.
That's
and
crazy.
that's so that's 1.13, and the total interest is $950,000. So in terms of the capital you put in, it's like what, $50,000, and then you earn 10 times that, more than that. That's insane. So these are the little things that we were talking about. Like, what's your time frame and what are you willing to do?
Oh, he bought an actual spot where he's going to be buried.
Oh, okay.
I kind of wondered if that's what he meant, because that's what my parents did. They bought like their plots and everything, so then when they die, we don't have to worry about paying for anything.
Is that why? Is that why you did that? So you could save the burden from other people having to buy it?
From the family. That's interesting. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, because I don't want to worry about that kind of stuff when you have to deal with like your executor or
both
whatever.
of my parents, their funerals, everything's done. We don't have to do anything when they go, so that's nice.
Don't have to do anything but collect that check. No, sorry.
The one thing I just noticed about you guys talking about like having discipline with investing, and then Odin, like how you do your business, I think the common thread is just like the values that you both have. Like you have identified the values you want to live by, and so that's just how you're kind of living your lives. This is how I want to live, and this is what's important to me, so this is how I'm gonna go forward. And I think that's hard for a lot of people, is not necessarily having that intrinsic values, but like I think that's important to identify.
But why is it though? Why is it that most people, like, we're just doing this calculation now of $500 a month, people can make that amount of money and put that away. Why is it that so many people are struggling with money and finances?
I can touch on this.
Yeah.
So I think at a young age, because like I can go back to when I was 18, even 18 to 25, or even 18 to 30 still, you do not think about the long term. You think about right now. And I would, if you told me, or I'm sure a lot of people are like, you can take $500 and you consistently put that in the S&P 500. That's going to be 1.1 when you're in your 40s. Yeah. But the young person, with the information they see and with the influence that they're being bombarded with, like, well, I can go put this into this cryptocurrency, and I could.
Doge is going to the moon.
I can 20x that 500 in a month, because that's what everybody's telling them on the internet. They're showing their accounts, because when we hit bull markets, that's when. Like when we hit these crazy euphoric bull markets in these certain asset classes, like crypto is a big one that kind of hits a lot. It's kind of really subdued lately. It hasn't really been going off. But when that thing does pick up, and you can buy, and all these little coins are like 100xing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like everybody just wants this get rich fast. Like, that's when I first got in the market. I got into the marijuana industry back in 2016, and it was all about getting rich. I wasn't about investing in the S&P 500. I was like, I'm going to put this money and I'm going to have $10 million in 2 years, so to speak, right? I wanted it fast, and I was like daydreaming, and it was very seductive, right?
Yeah. So then so people don't have the right values, then like how, because they want to get rich quick. But how do we, like, is this just a larger societal problem? Like, do we need, like, what do we need to do at least to fix that?
Well, like, first of all, it's up to the parents I think it's really up to the parents to really educate the kids, or the young people, right? Like, they need to have some sort of mentors, because most people are getting their education and mentors from YouTube, right?
Yeah,
which is not a bad thing if you're.
Well, unfeathered access to YouTube, I think, is not a good thing.
Yeah,
but
it's
what's that? It's a sense of hopelessness for the youth. Kev, yeah, howdy. Yeah, I could see that.
What does he mean by that exactly?
I think it just means, like, because if you feel as if, like, even if you're going to save money for the 20 years down the line, the way that, for example, we're talking about the housing market, it's like, even then, housing prices are still going to be crazy. The cost of living is still going up and up and up and up. Even if I did save now, what's the point of it now? And like, I can't get a job now. It's so hard for people to get jobs. For me, like, my current full-time job isn't enough. So maybe crypto runs will save me. Yeah. So if you think about that, and I think, yeah, that's the hopelessness right there, of that. Even if I do the right things, of get my job, work a decent job, make a decent wage, it's still not enough for the cost of living. So you got to find something else.
So that comes back to the lottery ticket saying, and I might be quoting Morgan Housel on this one. So people you call it in the lower income class, they will buy lottery tickets, $2, $5, $20. They'll spend $20 a week on lottery tickets, right? And in retrospect, they most of how hard it is to win at the lottery. But if they were to take,
hard. I've been trying harder. It's not working.
Obviously, right? The odds are stacked against you, and it's the problem. If you were to take that $20 and then just invested it throughout time, right? But when you ask them that, they're like, they don't think like that. They're so poor.
Well, they need the money now.
They're so poor that they don't think that $20 is going to do anything for them, because they can't think in the long term, because they need the money now, because they're in their life where they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
They can't say, "Oh, I'm going to put $20 away this week," because for them, their future, it's not there for them. They're struggling.
Oh yeah,
now.
you can't see the future.
They need to take those swings to try to get out of the spot that they're in, right? And I kind of see that point of view.
Well, that goes with what he's saying. Is that it goes with hope. Like, you buy the lottery ticket because you have that sense of like, hey, if I just win this, it could solve all my problems, because nothing else in your life, whether that's society's fault or whatever the cause is, there's nothing that gives you that sense of hope.
Yeah,
how are you going to get out of it if you're living paycheck?
I'm very sympathetic to people that have to work low wage jobs that are really good people.
Yeah,
it's not like,
or even right now. Sorry, I'll just say, like, even now, people working good wage jobs are still struggling.
It's not. Well, I mean, that's
like,
the thing.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not just the McDonald's.
What is a good wage job? I guess it's really relative to what your output is, like whether you have children.
That's true, and whether you're where you live,
what you're taking into what you're putting out. But at the same time,
I just mean, like, what would normally have been considered a good job, like you're working at an office, whatever.
It's been said many times that most people are living paycheck to paycheck,
right?
And they really don't have. And I could be very dismissive to that. It's like, listen, you can find the room in there to invest $100 a month. You know what I mean? Like, anybody can do it. Just cut this out, cut that out, and that is so hard for somebody in that position to be able to take that, take that advice. You know what I mean?
That's a blanket statement too, right? You need to. Yeah. Sorry. I heard you say that investing $500 a month is relatively easy. No. Okay. So there we go. I'm going to push on. That might be true for professionals, but keep in mind that 48.5% of that Canadians do not have an education beyond high school. So, like, that's a good point. For 500 months, the difference between eating and not eating. Yeah. So that's what we're saying too. Like, that blanket statement of 500 is, for some people, it might be easy. For a lot of people, that could be very difficult.
Yeah, I don't think we were saying that 100%. It was easy. It's just how easily that can compound into 1.1 million. We don't really mean say that it's $500 a month is a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money for most people. Like, we're not downplaying that.
It's just showing
you just meant to say that some people can spare $500 a month if they cut out certain things out of their life that create no value.
Right.
But I'm very sympathetic to the people that can't. I know tons of people that can't spare $500 a month.
Oh yeah.
And my heart goes out to them. And that this is the problem that we're in, right? It's like, how do they get out of that system? And you know what I mean? It's like, do they go? And it's tough. And there's, it's easy for me to say, well, why don't you go get another job? You know what I mean? Why don't you go work 3 jobs? You know what I mean? That's very, that's not very, I'm sympathetic to the people that are struggling. I think what you're trying to make with that point is that some people a month, I think that what they're spending their money on, there's a lot of stuff that creates no value. Cigarettes.
Oh, yeah,
booze,
exactly. If you look at someone's budget and say, like, they're spending, I got all the Netflix, all these subscription models, and then I go to eat out restaurants 2 times a week. You can find ways to cut money and you could save it. Yeah. But I think it goes to just, there's different ways of doing things, of trying to get yourself out of that situation. So for some people, if they can spare to invest as much as they can, do whatever you can, even if it's $20, whatever. But then if you literally are stuck and you can't have that, then that's where you could look at, okay, well, what other skills do I have that I could maybe I don't have the money, but maybe I have the time. Maybe I could learn how to build a website for somebody and I could make some extra money that way. Maybe I could figure out how to cut grass for somebody, like, and figure out how I can make a little bit of a business to try to get yourself out of that. Because yeah, it's for a lot of people, I think it's very difficult. And hey, listen, I know what it's like, Andrea, you know what it's like when we were broke.
Damn.
Like there was a time, you remember when we were making $800 a month.
Yeah.
And our rent was $1,000.
Yeah.
Like we did that for like 2 years.
It was rough.
Like that was rough. Like I know what it's like to not have money and to be broke. There was one time too, I don't even know how many times I've told you this. Probably, I don't think I've told you this at all. But we were so broke, I had like no money for food. And I had to go to the pawn shop to pawn like I got an iPod.
Your iPod, yeah.
And I had to
I
pawn
remember that because
to get money.
The kids were just little. Like Maya was not even 2.
So I was like, I know what it's like to not be able to have money. So I totally get that. Sometimes $500 is not an easy task, but there's ways that you can work towards getting yourself out of there.
This is the tough love part where it's like, it's hard to say this to people because I know a lot of people are struggling, but there's always a way, and it's never like you, like sometimes, like I know people that are struggling, but they won't go sell their dirt bike. They won't go sell this thing. They would rather go get a credit card and leverage the credit card and take out the 20% interest on
like
it.
I'm struggling, but
no,
they got
I can't
this
get rid of this. Listen,
Yeah.
you're in a tough spot right now. You need to do the hard things right now till you can get yourself into above water a little bit. And then when you get yourself above water a little bit, then maybe you can start figuring out how you can take $100, $200, and you might struggle for some years, 5, maybe even 10. But if you keep doing these consistent things and have to work a little bit harder, and maybe just do some things that are really uncomfortable just to get your head above water, you will start getting your head up, and you'll start growing a little bit more. And it's tough because, maybe I'm not in that situation. You're not in that situation. I know a lot of people are, but it's hard to just sit there and feel like you're hopeless.
It's the mindset thing, like you were saying earlier. Like if you can at least change how you want to think about things and be like, okay, well, I'm in this situation, but how do I get myself out of it?
And I'm very sympathetic to people that are, that don't have family members that can maybe, house them for a little while. And that's a huge advantage. Like if you can just, stay in somebody's room for a little while. Maybe if you don't have a family, you can get subsidized rent for a little while till you can build up your net worth, your nest egg. But you have to try your best to figure out how you can start building a little bit of wealth just to get your, it's not easy. I know living paycheck to paycheck, but it's always the hard things that need to be done. And whether that's trying to, live somewhere that's a little bit more subsidized, or to cut out this expense that you really don't need right now. And I know some people's lives are just, they can throw you the tough sob story. And I'm very sympathetic to that, but I'm talking about everybody has some sort of option in their life that they can change and start making a little up. But at the same point, the point that was made earlier, they feel so hopeless that they just don't think that doing that little thing is going to make any type of dent in their life. Because it's so hard to see 40 years away when you can barely struggle for next week.
Don't lose hope. Come talk to us. Let's start a business together. Let's figure it out, because that's what it's all about.
That's just it. And if anybody is,
and we'll have a good time while doing it.
Everybody is struggling out there. We'd love to hear your story. And, and maybe we can just have a chat about it, and maybe we can all kind of brainstorm and come up with some ideas and some options maybe to help you save a little money, maybe make a little extra money. We're just kind of here to help people that are in those types of situations, because I think that there needs to be a voice for people that kind of feel helpless instead of looking at how to make $1 million business and stuff like that. We just want to help people, save and grow.
The get rich quick stuff.
Yeah, we want to help people.
We
want to help people save and grow. Like if we can help somebody, able to find an extra $100, $200 a month and help them get that invested in a TFSA to help build their wealth. Then I think that's a great start. I know it's hard for people to think in 40-year terms, but let's give it the benefit of the doubt that you will be around for that long, and having an extra $20,000 that you can have even when you're 40. I know a lot of people would love in their 40s to have $20,000 right now that they started when they were when they're in their 20s or even their 30s.
So Rolando, Kevin, just so you know, TFSA, that's tax-free savings account. That's a Canadian vehicle where we're allowed to invest up to $7,000 a month, and whatever returns you get into it is tax-free, which is nice.
Is he from?
I agree.
Is he from U.S.?
Rolando's in Mexico.
Oh yeah, Mexico. Yeah.
Andrea, what was that? Sorry, it was just.
Sorry.
So I agree there. We all have choices. Yeah. Until you don't have a choice anymore until you're dead, right?
Yeah.
Gotta keep
there's some extreme cases. I'm sure they can get thrown out. You know what I mean? You see them all the time in the comments, and I'm not, like I said, but we're talking about a good majority of people can make some different choices in their life, cut out some expenses. They can, and take on an extra job. Right now if you got to put in that extra time you got to put in a little extra work right now to have the comfortability later on in life. We all made sacrifices.
Yeah, and you've seen those idiots, Andrew. You've seen them too. The guys that complain, I don't have any money. It's like, yeah, why are you driving $100,000 car and your boat sitting in your yard?
Another one
out of here with this
another
bullshit.
one that blows my mind, and my buddy brought it up. So I'm a heavily tattooed guy. I don't know if anybody notices this, and I spent a lot of money on tattoos. But then we'll see people on the streets, right? Heavily tattooed.
I don't have money, but
heavily
you can pay
tattooed.
for the
I know how much tattoos cost. You know what I mean? I didn't start get tattooed till I had the right amount of wealth where I could start getting tattooed. But I'm looking at people on the streets and they are just cutting nice work too, right? That's like $150 to $170 an hour, right? I'm like, priorities, right? You know what I mean? It's just little things like that, right?
See. I want to just end off here because I want to talk about specifically what you're invested in, because I think what's again, if you don't mind talking about this, so your portfolio is around $2 million or whatever, right?
Yeah, I personally don't look at my I haven't looked at my net worth in almost 10 months now.
Okay, which is good.
Yeah, I don't like looking at it. I like to focus on the process. I just like to invest. I find looking at net worth, but it's
totally fair.
It's up around that number, give or take.
Okay, so the reason I want to say is because you're generating money that's coming out of there, right?
So I'm invested in a cover call ETF strategy, which basically the easiest way to describe that strategy is that I'm invested in the most sought after investments, which is I'm invested in the QQQ index, which is
that's what I wanted to know is how are you making, even with 2 million, even if you're you'd have to take out a lot of money to be able to get that, and if you want to have $10,000, you have to, what am I trying to say here? It's I'm not understanding how you're still growing your portfolio while drawing out that amount of money.
Yeah,
I guess that's what I'm saying. Because if it was just an index fund, I'm I wouldn't make enough money off the returns because it's only 2-3% yield.
So
right?
my portfolio is
Sorry, Andrea, can you bring that? Was there a comment up there?
Yeah.
Sorry. The best business, sorry, we'll just get that in a second here. Rolando says the best business investments are in 3 areas: emergency funeral services. That makes people are always going to die. So this is kind of a sad way to think about it, but yeah, it's true. Food and currently fast track education, like boot camps and things of that nature. It's interesting you mentioned the education stuff because that education space is really interesting and how things are shifting away from the traditional model of going to university or whatever. But now it's hey, just teach me how to do something that's going to generate money. So those are good points. I think I pretty much agree with that. What are you saying? People always need food. People always need to bury people.
Yeah, I don't know about food. Personally, I don't.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
But
it is a big business, though.
It is. It's a huge business. I just don't know, on a margin basis.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Are we talking restaurants?
Right,
Are we talking?
It's pretty big. Yeah.
Are you actually are you packaging food to sell? It depends.
Right,
I know the service industry and food it's
true. The restaurant business is tough.
It's toughest business to.
That's true.
That's
a good point.
Yeah.
So maybe you'll expand a little bit more on what you mean.
But on the same side, I know that depending on what aspect of food, but that's a whole other discussion.
We'll definitely get into that in later episodes. So so I'm looking at this. So this QQQ Trust. Mm-hmm. So is it because I'm looking at the yield? It's a 0.42% yield. Yeah. So how does it work?
So
tell me what's going on
let me just touch on this quick before we have to go here. So I'm invested in primarily the QQQ ETF, which is a tech heavy index.
It's Invesco.
Yeah, I'm invested in another product called HHIS, which takes 22 stocks out of the it's a condensed version of the QQQ.
What's it called?
HHIS. So what that is that, so these are income driven products. So these do a cover call strategy where they,
it's got a 30% yield.
Yeah. So that's
crazy.
So don't get too seduced by that.
Yeah.
So these are,
take my money. No.
So the easiest way to, like, without, maybe we can go into a deeper dive, but these they have a cover call strategy, which basically it does an option strategy. So they're creating premiums on this, which caps the upside. So they're able to create premiums from these cover call strategies. And so basically the easiest way is that I'm sacrificing my upside for income.
Like the long-term growth. Like
the long-term growth.
Like it's not going to grow over time.
My NAV will not grow. But if I was to keep reinvesting my dividends, so what it does is, like, these are really designed for people that really want income in their lifestyle, for retirees, for people that are trying to, want to do the FIRE movement, for people that just want income in their lives. So these products are designed to spit you out income in the form of growth. So the easiest way to kind of describe it is that, my net asset values do not go up. So my stock price does not go up because every time I get my dividends spit out, it comes out of my net asset value. But for me personally, I only spend 30% of my income and I reinvest the rest to keep my whole core.
So you're still,
so I'm
for
keeping my
you
growth.
are, yeah.
So yeah, so
okay, I see.
Yeah.
So like, is a way to think about this, like if I invested $1,000 into this ETF and we're saying, say it's a 30% yield.
Yeah.
So it's going to give you $30 a month, whatever. Let's just say a number. But then if I was to invest that same $1,000 into like the S&P, I'm going to make 30% maybe or whatever, but it's in the value of the stock itself. It's not in the dividends that it's going to spit out on a monthly basis.
Yeah, these
do you know what I mean? Is that kind of the right way to think about it?
Yeah, so these are very confusing to understand. The best way to understand this is if I have it, let's just use the S&P 500 because that's kind of the benchmark, right? If I put $1 million in the S&P 500, in 10 years that doubles. I get a 10% return on my investment. So now I have $2 million.
Right.
All right. But that thing pays out a 10% yield because the way it's structured. Right. So I'm getting paid out $100,000 a year for the next 10 years. So I'm getting paid out $1 million over the course of 10 years. Now I have a choice what I want to do with that $100,000 a year. I can spend it or I can reinvest it to keep the growth. So that's the way these things. So as long as the investment goes up over time and stays solid, I could spend all that money too. I could spend $1 million in 10 years and still have my original investment.
But I see. So I'm just trying to look here. What's the underlying investment that this fund purchases? Does it say? Do you know what I mean? Like
the HHIS?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about 20 stocks. It's all your big guys. It's your Nvidia, your Apple.
So it's still pretty.
It's diversified.
It's like it's blue chip stocks.
Yeah, there's a little bit of crypto exposure in there. Okay. It has your big, like it has your big mega caps, your Meg 7 stocks. It's a very nice basket of stocks.
Yeah,
that
one
I
see.
So that's right now is actually outperforming the indexes right now.
Right.
So it's just a part of my portfolio that gives me a little bit more concentration in the areas that I want to be in.
So you could almost think of it as like, okay, well, it's like I just want to take, instead of buying the Costco stocks or whatever it is, the Nvidia, and then it's just going to grow and then it's just going to sit in there. It's like almost withdrawing it as soon as the profits kind of hit, almost, right? And
like this said, it's like it's spitting you out a yield, right? But like I said, that yield is coming out of your investment, but you can reinvest that.
So when you say it's coming out of your investment, does that mean you could actually lose shares? Like if I buy 1,000 shares,
it adjusts your cost basis. So if you have $1 million, right? If I have $1 million portfolio in the S&P 500, and for some reason that the S&P 500 it won't do this, but say it stays flat for the course of 5 years,
right?
But I'm still getting my distribution spit out to me.
That dividends,
so if I decided that I was going to spend that, so it's like I said, if I'm getting 10% spit out to me every month, right? There's $100,000, or sorry, it'd be $120,000 or $120,000 a year, 12 months, right?
Okay.
So I'm getting that spit out to me in the form of dividends. So so that's coming out of my net asset value. So every time the money,
that
money is
S&P.
That money is coming out of that $1 million
in the S&P.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not understanding. Sorry about this.
I might have to conclude this to another time.
Oh, do you have to run? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, because I just like to think in terms of the number of shares. Because I'm like, if you have 1,000 shares and the S&P, you're still getting that dividends, but you still have 1,000 shares.
Yes,
but in this one, it's different then. Like if I buy 1,000 shares of HHIS. And if it goes down and whatever, do I still have 1,000 shares?
Yeah, you still have the same amount of shares. You're just, your cost on those shares is adjusted.
Going forward, if you buy more.
You buy more shares, yes. You can, but you're trying to accumulate as many shares as you can by reinvesting your dividends.
Okay,
but so for example, if you bought that at $26 a share, right, and then you get your spit out your dividend, then that 26 gets readjusted to what you were just paid out. So it's your cost adjusted thing. So for example, if you're getting 1,000. So let's just use big numbers. You're getting $1,000 out of your investment paid out to you.
Right. That's
so that yield. So that $1,000 is coming out of your net asset value.
Oh, so if you go look at the value of your, it drops it down, right? So like when the S&P, it stays at whatever it is, but this one will actually.
I think this is a conversation that needs a little bit more time. Yeah, it's like I feel like I'm rushing this whole part of the conversation.
Fair enough. I'm just interested because it's fascinating to me, but I'm like, well then, like, what's the difference between this versus like just buying the shares on their own? You know what I mean? Like you're saying it's the
difference between an income strategy and a growth strategy.
Yeah.
So it's like you want to buy the S&P at whatever price it is today, just leave it in there for 40 years. You're going to get your capital gains. You sell your capital gains and you spend that money. But those capital gains that I plan on getting are getting paid out to me in income in real time because I want my money now.
Yeah.
If I believe that asset is going up over time, then I'm taking that income now. So I don't want the $1 million in 10 years. I want that $1 million paid out to me. Because if
there's tax considerations
but I need
as well,
that asset,
too.
but I need to believe in that asset. If I'm going to be drawing down and spending the income from that asset, I need to believe that those assets are going to go up over time.
Yeah. Is there one last question?
Yeah.
Or did you have to run?
No. Go. Yeah.
So if I buy 1,000 shares of whatever it is.
HHIS, yeah.
Yes. If I buy 1,000 shares and then I keep getting, they'll keep giving me dividends. Would there be a point in time, and I don't buy anymore, I don't reinvest, I just take the cash.
Yeah.
There could be a point where I could just have nothing left.
If the investment, if the investment stops growing,
then
if the investment starts going down, or the investment, see, a 30% yield is a lot. That's because the assets inside that thing create a lot of premium, which is a conversation that needs a way more further discussion. But with an asset with this particular one that's giving you 30%, you want to keep a lot of that reinvested, right? Because you know what I mean. It's just the way it is. Because
it'll help you with the fluctuations.
That's your long-term growth, and that's more than the growth. You know what I mean? If it's paying, because that, you getting 30% annual return. That's a big return that you can't really rely on, but you can rely on 10% annual return. So I'm comfortable spending,
and then reinvest the
but
rest.
Me personally, I only spend down 5% of my annual return, and I reinvest the rest. Yeah, because that's how I designed it.
That's how it builds.
That way I can comfortably spend. Yeah.
Okay.
But I would love it. We'll touch on this.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I definitely want to learn more.
This needs its own hour. This type of investing.
No, sounds good. Yeah, we'll get to that. Thank you guys, Kevin, Rolando. Thank you to everyone who joined the stream. Really appreciate you guys dropping by and leaving your comments. So appreciate that. Luke, as always, thanks again, and we'll be back here again next. We're gonna do this consistently, 1 o'clock our time, whatever that is, whatever it stopped, every Thursday.
Thursday.
We'll see you then. Thanks a bunch.
All right.
All right. Andrea, you remember how to stop? She'll stop the stream here. Perfect. Anyways, thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.